Where do I even start with this show? Wait. Cowboy Bebop is universally regarded as one of the best animated shows of all time. This is because Wikipedia said so. The more obvious reason for this is the quality of the show. Every aspect of this anime has something incredible to offer. I mean, it's Bebop. The art of the environments, its incredibly fluid animation, the music, the characters. However, Bebop's significance also lies within its influence, being one of the few anime of its age to be hugely successful in the West. I somehow own 2 Bebop shirts and I didn't even go looking for them. But despite this significance and acclaim, I can genuinely say I've never seen a show truly like Bebop. It has such character. Let me show you. It's a neo-noir space western filled with self-contained, episodical stories that allow it to gracefully glide through ideas, plot lines, locations, and the mysteries behind the cast. All with a huge emphasis on jazz. This show's soundtrack is the Mario Galaxy of anime soundtracks. Just fuck Watanabe for a second. Listen to what Yoko Kanno cooked up for this. Rush is a track dedicated to when Spike starts kicking ass. When I hear Cosmos, I want to pull out a big-ass cigar. When I hear Space Lion, has this delightfully charming cast of 4 that interacts so dynamically that even though none of their stories are truly connected, they have this wonderful chemistry that creates great moments. The proof of this is that they each have their own gifs on tenor. No character is snubbed. It has one of the greatest dubs ever and a fantastic conclusion. How cool is all of that? No other anime is willing to do this stuff because they're too scared to be Bebop. I guess the drawback to Bebop is that it is an episodic show, so it's not going to be perfect. There are honestly mediocre episodes contrasted with unreachable peak like the Mushroom episode. Watanabe does it again by changing this to this and this to this. He tackles the cast and the structure of the show in a very similar way, and he finds musicians just as talented as the previous ones. Ta-da! It's amazing. Man, Space Dandy is closer to being a successor to regular show than it is Bebop. So where do we start with Lazarus? How about its identity? Whereas Bebop's identity is so strong, Lazarus's identity is a fucking mess. It's simultaneously presenting itself as a successor to Bebop, while also not really being anything like Bebop. But even then, every aspect of Lazarus just seems to be so diluted. The art is okay. The problem is that Lazarus is trying to be super grounded and realistic, so the futuristic environments aren't nearly as cool as Bebop's. The animation is at its best genuinely amazing. I was very impressed by the choreography of Lazarus. This is because John Wick himself actually did the choreography for this show, although there are some really weird cuts. What are your ankles made of? The characters are... I'll get to this later. Its themes are so surface level that it's pretty impossible to interpret anything actually profound from them. It's pretty obviously a show about climate change and political corruption, but it doesn't actually have anything to say about these topics beyond them being bad. The soundtrack is fine. It's the Gex of anime soundtracks. The world is just a bit dull. It's our world, but we don't get to see any of the reactions or changes that occurred due to the crazy-ass events showcased in the plot. Oh yeah. The plot. Now I hate plot recaps, so I'll make this short. Lazarus is about a team of weirdos brought together to find a guy called Dr. Skinner. He announced that his version of paracetamol, that everybody's already taken at this point, is actually poison and it's going to kill them unless they find him and his cure. Basically, it's just like One Piece. There isn't anything wrong with this in itself, but some issues arise pretty quickly. What starts off as episodic shenanigans, like in Bebop, quickly morphs into a linear political action drama. Not only does this have none of the charm of its predecessor, it's about as compelling as a Marvel movie. I haven't watched that movie with Red Hulk, but I imagine Lazarus is kind of like the Red Hulk movie because that vaguely includes politics, I think. The trade-off for making the story a lot more plot-heavy, cutting the runtime of the show in half, and stretching the cast of 4 to about 6 is that the characters fucking suck. Firstly, they're obviously rehashes of Bebop's characters. Axel is Spike, what's his name is Jet, what's her name is Faye, and Edward has been split across time and space like WD fucking Gaster to 3 different characters. And none of them understood why the original worked so well, so they all end up being bland or annoying. Ayn is Dr. Skinner, and there's even kind of a vicious guy. For all of these guys, there is no time spent on developing them or making them interesting. The majority of them don't even get backstories, we just have like 2 sentences of context regarding their situation. This chart I made in 5 minutes explains everything you need to know. Furthermore, these guys just have no chemistry at all. Oh, and the dialogue. I have not seen dialogue this clean since my dear friend Makoto.
So basically we're superheroes.
That's cool. We're like the Avengers or something. Seems like the kind of place where Batman would live. Try this.
At one point, the team makes a big risk to go and save a kidnapped member, but I'm sat watching, wondering why, because none of them have really talked to her. Same goes for when these two kiss. Man, this anime sucks at romance. But to be honest, none of the shit that I've said up until this point really even matters. The real reason Lazarus is ass compared to Bebop is because the episodes aren't as good. Here's a tier list of all the Cowboy Bebop episodes, and here's all of the Lazarus episodes using the same tier list. It's pretty simple. The more episodic episodes aren't nearly as fun, interesting, or memorable, and the more linear episodes feel like Marvel movies rather than the rare bombshells that Bebop had to offer. Lazarus doesn't really have a saving grace, but if it did, it would probably just be Axel. He is cool. He's not interesting, but at least you know he's gonna have a cool fight once an episode. I like the gay elevator one. That one's my favourite. If I really had to give Lazarus props for something, it's actually paced pretty well. While it's never really that great, it always moves along fairly quickly. A lot of the worst parts of this show don't drag on that much. For that, I don't think Lazarus is a terrible show. I found myself lightly amused amidst most of it, even if it was really shallow. You wouldn't be wrong to hate Lazarus, but I do find there are some invalid reasons to hate Lazarus. The first is that the show is woke. Who cares? The second is that this show isn't Bebop. Bebop is an incredibly good anime, and it's ridiculously hard to create a spiritual successor to such a big name. I think some level of disappointment is bound to happen when watching Lazarus because of the quality of Bebop. It's like this guy on Mal says, you just can't catch lightning in a bottle twice. Well, you can, because 6 years later, this same motherfucker made Samurai Champloo. Although it uses that same episodic structure of Bebop, Champloo is still able to hold an incredibly strong, unique identity. This is because the episodic structure makes it so easy to showcase all of Champloo's different themes. But obviously, its very distinct art style and soundtrack help with this. The important part here is that if you really care about thematic depth, Champloo, unlike Lazarus, is able to match Bebop. While they're both anime very focused on identity, the way they go about portraying this is way different. I view Bebop as an anime about how impactful people's pasts can be on the present. Spike is a character described as not being truly alive because of this. His life is stuck in a dreamlike purgatory after losing his previous life. Jet is an example of the willpower needed to push through and move on from the past. He is able to throw away those remnants. Faye is forcibly chained to the past through debt, and it leads to this criminal lifestyle caused by something she doesn't understand herself. Edward is funny. Champloo also dips into the importance of its cast's backstories, but I find it's far more interested in emphasizing the cast's identity using the setting. It paints the characters as outcasts unfit for the structured conformist society of Edo Japan, and it's constantly using hip-hop to showcase the importance of counterculture and the struggle that many of those whose society rejects face. You know, queer people, racial religious minorities, dudes that like spray painting stuff. And it's because they're outcasts that they kind of aimlessly wander through Japan on misadventures. Just to drive home my point, let me paint you a picture. On a scale of episodic to linear, Bebop is here, Champloo is here, and Lazarus is here. See, Bebop and Champloo, they're in the Watanabe zone, where his storytelling really shines. He blends mostly fun, standalone stories with the occasional linear lore bomb. Over here is where, typically, the really good, well-written stories are. Let's call that the Urasawa zone. So as examples, Monster is here, Pluto is here, but also stuff like, AOT and Fullmetal Alchemist slide in here. Lazarus is in the half-measure zone, where it's too linear to let Watanabe shine, but too episodic to actually have a compelling plot through typical storytelling. And then Space Dandy is like all the way over here.